Hello and welcome to the TTI Distribution Download, the podcast where we talk about all things happening in the world of electronic components with the specialists of TTI. Today, it's another installment of big ideas and little-known facts about connectors with John Sandy of TTI and Molex's John Crimmins.
Thanks, Jim, and welcome everybody to Molex and TTI's podcast series, Big Ideas and Little-Known Facts in the World of Connectors. Joining me today is my co-host, John Crimmins.
Thank you, John.
And actually, as our special guest today, we have Greg Hoffman, who is Director of Cable Products at Molex. Welcome, Greg.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me today.
Why don't we start by getting the listeners a little bit of an idea of Greg Hoffman and what you do at Molex and how long you've been there?
Sure, absolutely. So I've been at Molex just a little bit over 17 years. Time always flies when you're having fun. And, first part of my career at Molex has been on the sales side of the business. Spent there for 15 years, engaged with our customers, with our distributors, with TTI. The last couple of years have moved into our product division, specifically PSBU, or Power and Signal Business Unit, where I've been the director of our cable product segment. And really what that means is managing a global team to help bring cable assemblies, cable harness solutions out to our customers and leverage our growing capabilities in this area.
Thanks for that, Greg. Why don't you also give our listeners an idea of cable assemblies in Molex? So what does that look like today? How is that developing, and the sort of things that you're really focusing in on?
Sure, John. The title of the series, right, in the world of connectors, as you said, and I think that's one thing I want to make sure that we here today talk a little bit more about. We also want to talk about the cable assemblies in that world of connectors and what happens after you design something in, work together to solve a solution on a board level, but ultimately you have to connect different parts of the product and manage that entire interconnection scheme. And really, that's where over the last couple of years, Molex has expanded and grown our cable assembly capability from both engineering standpoint, from global capabilities in multiple manufacturing locations around the world, trying to support customers that have needs here in North America or Europe or Asia, and bring a very strong single idea of what cable assemblies could mean to them, and try to understand the value that ultimately us as an organization can bring around the world through strong supply chain, through, like I said, our technical capabilities, and at the end of the day, bring a mutual value to our customers in a differentiated way than some of other cable assembly manufacturers do today.
And Greg, what is your manufacturing footprint for the cables?
Yeah, so I'm present in all regions around the world. My three main manufacturing locations today are in India, China, as well as in Mexico. And certainly we've seen in the last couple of years a lot more interest in the Mexico and North America manufacturing location to help strengthen some of the regional focus that our customers have been giving to us the last couple of years.
Thanks for that, Greg. Why don't we give our listeners a little bit of an overview of what the world looks like for Molex when it comes to cable assemblies? Are you looking at anything specific from a point of view of the format? Maybe does the product all have to be Molex content? Just give them an idea of maybe the capabilities you guys have and the kind of opportunities you're looking for.
So we'd like to focus in a couple of areas. First would be, your standard discrete wire harness cable assembly. That could be a point-to-point assembly. It could be a cable that has multiple breakouts. And then from there, we could start to add some additional complexity where you have a growing list of BOM items, from connectors, mechanical features, cable ties, bundling methods, and also looking for ways to simplify, some of the routings on some of those more complex cable assemblies. We also like to focus on offering some overmolded type solutions when customers looking for a better aesthetic or something that's more robust. We want to try and find ways to design some overmolding solutions for them. Uh, we're also finding a lot of success today in high power cable assemblies. We know the world is increasing its focus on AI and data centers, and Molex has a good set of products supporting that market. And we're also bringing forth capabilities to build the entire cable assembly. And the last area that many people don't really know about is that we do offer thermistor solutions. So we want to try and find ways to integrate thermistor and temperature sensing into our cable assemblies, again, to help regulate some of the temperature management in a lot of these data center markets today, for example.
Well said, Greg. Hey, if you're an engineer at a customer, you're designing in a Molex header, and can you talk about adding value or getting that cable experience out to the customer? What are some questions to ask that customer, or a way to let them know a little bit more about our value add cable solutions?
Once you start working at a PCBA level, ultimately you have to know, where is the signal going to go? Where's the power coming from? How is it being distributed throughout the rest of the customer's product? And I think it's essential to start asking these questions earlier on in the design process. I think where we get stuck often is coming into the picture a little bit too late and figuring out how it's getting from point A to point B. So the earlier we can engage in that design process is going to help us bring forward the best cable solution that, one, fits what the customer is looking for, two, fits Molex manufacturing capabilities, and three, kind of delivering that overall integrated solution between Molex and TTI to support an end-to-end type of product. And I think it's critical we start asking those questions early on when we're engaged in the identification process. That way we're not scrambling at the end of the day, which many times we are, and that's okay. But the sooner the better, I think, for us to be more successful in driving that mutual benefit for our customers. And lastly, I'll add, it doesn't necessarily have to be all Molex content. Of course, we'd like it to be. It helps us manage our supply chain. It helps us to bring forward the best costed solution, of course, but it's not an end all be all. We certainly understand that sometimes there may be other products that are legacy or that have a better fit for our customers. And sometimes a Molex capability doesn't cover everything. And for those instances, we are able to work with other manufacturers. And at the end of the day, we become a one-stop shop for managing that entire supply chain. And I think that's also an area where we can continue to add some value.
Yeah, I think there's some great points there, Greg. So for anybody listening here who's got a cable assembly opportunity or working on a new design, certainly get us involved, get your TTI local specialist and local Molex team involved as soon as possible, for sure. I know certainly, Greg, we've had a lot of success together over the last few years. I think one of the key points, and maybe we can talk to it a little bit here, is that once that product is designed in, TTI really does treat it just like any other part number by stocking it and really supporting the customer. Could you talk maybe about the value of the partnership we have and how the customer benefits from that?
The TTI and Molex relationship is really important, and it has helped us to be successful on the front end as well as the back end, and really throughout the entire process, from starting with the design, right, bringing the right technical resources, both from TTI and Molex, to engage with the customer, understand the requirements, and then we start to engage with the rest of my team, my engineering team, my manufacturing team, to link all of the right information and people together. And then at the back end, through the NPI process and ultimately launching this to production, having TTI involved in that area to put some parts on the shelf, have them readily available for the next time that they're needed throughout the process. And then ultimately, once it goes to production, help to manage the customer's expectations and needs by putting these cables in stock in your warehouse and having it ready when the spike comes in for demand, making sure that it's a seamless approach and the customer at the end of the day is happy with the support. And of course, when issues arise or we need to make a change to the design to better suit something that we've learned now that we're in production, right? Molex is ready to react accordingly and be able to find the next step and ultimately, help to solve any problems that may come up. So uh, I think that, again, early engagement between our teams is really important. But I know that several of the customers and applications that we've supported over the last couple of years, it's really gone pretty smoothly. And I think that's a testament to the relationship that we have between Molex and TTI, honestly, between my cable team, as well as the TTI sales team and BDM team. We work really well, we communicate really well, and ultimately that pays dividends for everyone involved.
And Greg, over the last year or two, Molex has had a lot of growth from a wide array of customers, and TTI has driven a lot of that by introducing these customers to Molex. Can you talk about the capacity you've added in the last few years to support the growth of our cables?
It's important that we're as proactive as we can be. Sometimes that crystal ball is not an easy thing to read, especially in the global economy. But I want to make sure that now, as well as in the future, as we focus more on cable assemblies and make it not just a nice to have, Molex can do it, but a must have, and look to us as a valued partner in this space. That means I have to be ready to support it. So we've added capacity in all three of those plants I mentioned earlier, in India, in China, as well as in Mexico, to support the growing needs of our customers. And it's not just capacity from a tool aspect, right? We want to have the right automation in place, but also the right people and resources. And those resources are across all functional areas, from engineering to product management to process engineering at the plant, to direct labor, to help build the assemblies. All of these things are important. And I spend a lot of time with my team making sure that we're ready to support. And ultimately, it's very helpful when TTI is able to bring the forecast and that voice of the customer to us. It allows us to take the right decisions and be prepared as possible.
Greg, I pulled out one word or one sentence you said there, a valued partner. I know from a Molex TTI point of view that resonates historically and will do moving forward. But also to our cable assembly customers, I'm thinking back to many opportunities we've been working on over the past few years where communication has been important, right? Honest, functional communication. How important is it for us all to be on the same page and be sharing as much information as early as possible when it comes to either coming up with the right solution in the beginning or solving any challenges we may have as we go down the road to production?
Yeah, John, I think the most important thing is that customer experience. And we need to make sure, right, we're delivering a best-in-class experience for our customers. And we do that through clear communication, through clear follow-up, and ultimately it means your team, my team, our Molex sales team, right? We're all together. And if our communication breaks down, we can't expect to deliver a good product or good experience for our end customer. And I think that's something, over my career and being on the sales side of our business, I've really tried to bring into the business unit and bring that strong voice of the customer, understand those expectations. And sometimes I'm not as close as I'd like to be, but that's where I have TTI and I have the team to bring that information to us and help communicate those expectations. And ultimately, together, we each have our part and the roles that we play. And I think the last couple of years, as you've said, we've been able to do that successfully and really find some good mutual benefit for all the parties involved.
And Greg, is there a market in 2025 that your group would like to do more? And I know we're doing very well in the HVAC, home appliance, consumer market, but is there any market that you see that there's a window to do more with?
Absolutely, John. There's a lot of trends out there that I'd like to capture and leverage some of the growth potential. We're finding success in a very fragmented areas. We have opportunities throughout HVAC, like you mentioned. We have customers in automotive. We have customers in the industrial market, as well as the growing data center and beyond. So there's opportunities everywhere. And I think the more we can talk with our customers about their needs, we're going to be able to find opportunities to help drive our growth. Ultimately, I see growth in data center. I see growth in our industrial markets, as well as in HVAC, right? The requirements to cool some of these data centers that are out there are tremendous. And I think that's going to bring a lot of opportunities in that space. But even a customer who's making a drone or a consumer type of device, we'd like to talk to them about their cable assembly needs as well.
I guess for the listeners, as they've sort of got to this point in the podcast, Greg, they're really thinking Molex can do almost anything, really. If you were a customer listening on to this right now, and you had an opportunity and you want to move forward, just give them an idea of the kind of things you'd be looking for, maybe how they go about getting in touch, even obviously through maybe the TTI team, the Molex team, and the kind of, why don't you outline what a process might look like from hey, I might want to talk to Molex, to getting to maybe a part number and getting an order and into production?
Yeah, absolutely. We have multiple ways we can get to the end goal, John. And we want to start by trying to understand the product, the application, what the customer is trying to achieve. We want to understand some of the technical requirements, right? We want to make sure that we have the right connector selection, we have the right wire selection. We don't want to have mismatches in these types of things as we go forward, because it causes problems later on, right? We want an opportunity to help influence those areas, how things are routed through a design. We see a lot of quality issues being brought to Molex where, hey, I have a terminal backing out of a housing. And the more we dig into it, it's because of how something is routing, and there's too much stress being put on that terminal. So it's popping out, it's backing out. And those are things we don't think about often during the design aspect, and it's an afterthought. So how we engage there earlier on, I think, as we've said throughout this discussion, is really an important thing. Now, I want to be able to bring a few key areas of expertise to our customers' doorstep. One, that's our connector expertise. Two, our engineering value for harnessing capabilities. I think that's where, when we're engaged at that level, we really quickly find the mutual benefit between both Molex and our customer. Allowing us to increase the value of our supply chain capability and coupling that with TTI, right, is also going to help us as we get towards the most important step of launching a product. So the more we can talk about those things early on is also going to help us. So really, I think we can move up a value chain for our customers and leverage some of the positive things that our customers think about Molex today in terms of our connector products and connector knowledge, and start to leverage the same thing for cable assemblies. And I think that there's definitely an opportunity out there at many different levels across many different markets and industries to have that type of engagement and bring some of that value to life.
And Greg, I'd like to add to that. In my experience in the last few years and talking to my TTI counterparts, your sourcing team has done a very good job of tracking down some hard to find non-Molex components that are out there. So I've definitely seen an improvement in your sourcing team.
Greg, I'm going to summarize a little bit for the listeners, and then I'm going to give you an opportunity for a quick wrap-up before we close out. But really, if you're listening here and you have an existing cable assembly, if everything's going fine and you're looking for a second source, we're more than happy to look at it. But in an ideal world, we're looking for an opportunity to add value. So maybe where you're having some challenges with an existing supplier or existing design, but more often than not, get us involved early and give us a brand new design to look at, and then we can help work together to give us the very best solution that's both the best for the customer when it comes to using that cable assembly, but also best from your point of view in manufacturing it and using preferably the very best of products. So that seems to be an overview of what we've discussed here today, and the capabilities Molex have are very broad and very deep across multiple industries. Greg, if you had to leave our listeners with a final few thoughts, what would they be?
John, I think just to have our customers and the listeners here know that Molex has capabilities in cable assembly and cable harnesses, and it's not very well known today. I'm able to compete with their existing suppliers. I'm able to potentially bring a different aspect of value to our customers that maybe they're not seeing today. As we share those types of discussions and understand how we can add value and maybe where they're not seeing it, that also tends to be pretty powerful. And what you think may be a reason to move to Molex, just by getting together, having those discussions, we may find 2 or 3 more areas of really good synergy and ultimately help to deliver, like I said before, mutual benefit. And give us an opportunity to take a look at something you have today and see if it's an area that we could add some value, if we can be competitive. But really, let's talk about the future. Where do our customers want to go forward? And potentially, how could we be a part of that?
Greg, thanks very much. That's a great wrap up. Certainly answered the question, does Molex offer cable assemblies? Yes, they do. Give us a try. So that's Greg Hoffman, Director of Molex Cable Products. Thanks very much for joining us today, Greg.
Thanks, John. And John, appreciate the discussion. You guys have a great day.
Thank you very much, Greg.
And that's wrapping up the latest edition of Big Ideas and Little Known Facts in the World of Connectors between Molex and TTI with myself, John Sandy, and my co-host, John Crimmins. Thanks very much for joining us today, and I look forward to a podcast coming soon. Thank you.
That's it for this episode of the TTI Distribution Download. For more information on any of the topics you heard about today, reach out to your nearby TTI branch at 1-800-CALL-TTI or visit us online at tti.com.